Hi, I'm Gary, and welcome to the Galley. In the Galley today, we are starting a series on potatoes. And up first is storing potatoes. When you live on a boat, you don't always have easy access to supermarkets, farm stands, farmers markets, and you have to be prepared to go long stretches of time without being able to run to the grocery store. If you're going down into the Caribbean, it's expensive and they don't have the varieties we have here. So stocking up before you go is a wise thing to do. And if stored correctly, your potatoes can last 4 to 6 months. Now, this is also something that's great to do just if you live in a home, and especially if you live someplace where you have access to farmers markets and farm stands and you get potatoes fresh from the farm. And these potatoes not been treated with anything. They haven't spent long journeys on trucks to get to the grocery store. They're fresh and they're fresh from the ground. And you can stock up down on them in the fall and then have them for 4 to 6 months. So we're going to talk about potatoes. We're going to talk about storing them. I'm going to take you downstairs to show you where I store my potatoes. And it's in a kind of a funny place, but it works. So now when we're talking about potatoes, you have these big like Idaho starchy potatoes, and then you have the red, what they call waxy potatoes. Now I'm lucky that I have space and I can store both of them. If I didn't and I had to choose one, it would be this one. I'm going to choose the starchy potato because it has way more applications than the waxy ones. These waxy ones are great for roasting, they're great for soups because they really hold up and hold them shape and don't fall apart or cook away on you. But this one, I can do a whole lot more with it. So this is going to be my potato of choice if I could only choose one potato. And potatoes are actually really good for you. They are packed with vitamin C. In fact, in olden times, they were considered a life-saving source because they kept people from getting scurvy. Packed with potassium, copper, magnesium, zinc, super good for you. And they, because of all that vitamin C, it's considered an antioxidant because there's so much vitamin C in them. So potatoes, good. These potatoes are going to be part two of the series because we are going to do a bunch of different recipes with this potato. Then we have the waxy potatoes. Now these I like especially for soups and stews because they really hold up in those soups and stews. And I also have a roasted chicken dish with potatoes that I like to do, and this is a perfect potato for that. It's not going to get overly soft on you. It's going to really hold its shape and get that crispiness that you really want from those roasted potatoes. And then, of course, we have the sweet potato. Now, I went to the farm stand. I'm getting a little bit of a late jump on this, but that's okay. We're good. These potatoes are fresh from one of my favorite farm stands here. We have so many. We're so lucky where we are here that we have so many farm stands. And so these potatoes were grown about 2 or 3 miles from the boat. So I know that they're super fresh. Now, sweet potatoes are one of our favorite potatoes. We just love them. And they will probably be part two or three in this series of the different ways that we can make sweet potatoes. Just love them. Now, sweet potatoes, the darker they are, the darker orange they are, and the purple ones are really good for vision health and actually really good for brain health. So, again, packed full of vitamin C. So, that means it's got those antioxidants in there that fight free radicals. So, a really good thing and a really good way to get your vitamins. Now, they might not always be low calorie, and that's because of all the things that we put on potatoes, but the potato itself is going to be super good for you. So when storing your potatoes, you really want some kind of a crate, a wicker basket, or even a cardboard box and punch holes in it, because it needs to have air flowing through it. It needs to be in a cool, dark place. 50 to 60 degrees is optimal. And on my boat, I always find that if I'm below the water line, then it stays nice and cool. Humidity is great, but if they get too humid and they start to sweat, you want airflow through them so they're not sitting in that moisture that they're creating. So airflow, important. Temperature, important. And darkness is important. If you've ever seen potatoes at the grocery store and the skins are green, now this happens because those potatoes have been in the sun. They have had way too much exposure to the sun, and of course chlorophyll forms when that happens. Now, chlorophyll itself, if it's just green, won't hurt you, but that chlorophyll in potatoes can cause a toxin to grow in your potato, and it is called, I'm going to say this wrong, solanine, and this can be very toxic. In large doses, it can be deadly. It can cause serious gut issues. So I just find that if a potato turns green, I just don't want to take the chance. Some people think, well, just peel the green off and use it. And if it doesn't have that toxin, that's fine. But if it does, it's still in your potato. So if your potatoes turn green, they've had way too much exposure to light, which I'm doing right now, but I'm going to go hide them here soon. So just dispose of them. I think that it's best just to not eat the green potatoes, even if you peel off the green bits. So these boxes, I think I found at like TJ Maxx, but any kind of, again, box that you have, or basket. And inside you could do straw. You could, if you have a paper shredder, shred up all your bills and use all those bills to keep your potatoes happy for months to come. I found this aspen wood stuff, and this I found at Hobby Lobby, $2.99 a bag, so inexpensive. And I am just going to do a little bed. I put this where you can see it. And I will tell you, at first when you pull it apart, it does make a mess. So I make a nice bed down in the bottom for my potatoes, and I try to let them have their own space and not be sitting on top of each other and touching. So I kind of lay them out in there so they have their own space. And then I'm going to do another layer. And again, this could be paper shreddings. You could take the newspaper. I don't think anybody gets the newspaper anymore, but if you did, you could shred that up. And then we're going to do another layer of our red potatoes. Now, I will go through and check if I haven't used the potatoes in a while. I'll just go down, go through them, give them a check just to make sure that none of them have started to sprout or go bad. And when you're doing your potatoes, give them a good look over and just make sure that you don't see any bad spots. These are straight from the farmer's market, so they do have dirt on them, and I'm just going to leave that natural dirt on them and let them be how they are. And so we've got our crate of sweet potatoes, a crate of our red potatoes, and then a crate of our, we'll just call them Idaho potatoes. Of course, Idaho baking potatoes. Idaho grows the most potatoes in the country. And the state of Washington and Wisconsin are up there in the top 5. And I believe Colorado as well. So I'm just going to top these with a little bit of this just because I have it left over. And the good thing about this, once you buy it once, you can, reuse it and reuse it. Now, obviously, if you have a potato that went bad and spoiled this, you would want to replace it. But other than that, this is going to last you again and again and again. So if you're ready to go downstairs, let's go and let me show you how I keep my potatoes on the boat. So here we are. We are in my closet. And it is in my closet that I store my potatoes. So while we're here, I'll give you a little tour of the closet. Now this was a bunk when we first bought the boat, and I said, I want to make that a closet. So Billy made that happen for me, and it already had the desk so that I have a place to sit. And so we got a stool for my sandals. I just hung that on the wall. Billy added all of this, and between the two is 14 feet of hanging space. And I find in these closets that these little shoe bags or little bags are great for belts and shoes and all my t-shirts. Billy will tell you I have too many. So I've got my hats back there, and then the beautiful cabinetry that was already a part of the boat. So the part where the mattress used to sit is where we're going to store the potatoes. So this is the little compartment that I took off. This is broken down into 4 separate storage compartments. And this front section I choose to use for storing my potatoes. So I'm extremely lucky to have all of this storage. And the way back, I do like winter clothes and things, but this one that's in front, that's easily accessible, well, I'm going to put my potatoes in here. And I'm lucky it's so big that I'm also going to add some squash in here. Next time I go to the farm stand, I'm going to get some butternut squash, some spaghetti squash, probably some acorn squash. The farm stand that I go to, the lady said she had her husband grow these little baby or not pumpkins, but butternut squash. And they're tiny little butternut squash, and they're adorable. But she told her husband that she had a hard time cutting the big ones. So he grew these baby butternut squash for her. So I'm going to stock up on some of those. So squash, I can put in here. Onions, garlic, shallots, no. Keep your onions, your garlic, and your shallots far, far away. I actually have a whole other room where I can store those because the enzyme that they give off will do bad things here. And no apples. Apples will give off an enzyme that just makes everything around it start to ripen. So we're just going to keep this as potatoes and as squash. Now, if I only had room for one box or one basket, I can put these potatoes together. The baking potatoes and the red potatoes can live together. The sweet potatoes, they can all live together. I just have the room, and I like to keep them separate. And when I pop down, I know what I'm going after. I know where it is. But you can put them together. Now we're hitting all of our targets here. All right. Darkness, which we're going to have. We'll put the lid on here so they're going to stay in the dark. Humidity, yes. But this is a boat, so we have a lot of humidity. So I do a damp rid in there, and I just keep an eye on it and change that out when I need, so it's not overly humid in there. We really don't want these to sweat. So we got darkness, we got humidity, and we got temperature, because under here is below the water line, so it stays nice and cool. So we've come to the end of session 1 of potatoes, and we're ending it in a closet. So a little different there, but I hope I've encouraged you to hopefully store your potatoes, and also to maybe search out some local farm stands or farmers market and find some really fresh potatoes and support your local farmers in the process. Now, for number 2 in the potato series, we're doing mashed potatoes. Now, I know that probably sounds a little boring, but I want to show you the perfect way to make mashed potatoes. I want to show you how to store those mashed potatoes so that they stay nice and hot and warm while you're ready for dinner. And then we're going to take those mashed potatoes and we're going to make 3 completely different recipes with them. So come back for series 2 in potatoes. Thank you so much for being with me today. I hope you've enjoyed what you've learned. I hope you hit that subscribe button. I hope you give us a thumbs up and make a comment, because all of those things help me to be recognized on YouTube and to help people find me. So thank you so very much. And until next time, safe cruising.